A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Lisa Falkenberg, editor of opinion for the Houston Chronicle; Mustafa Tameez, media and public affairs consultant and managing director of Outreach Strategists; and Natalie Arsenault, president of Arsenault International Consulting. Lisa, Mustafa, Natalie, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you, Craig.
Good to be back.
Panel, more than 70% of the energy Texans used on Sunday came from wind and solar power. That is a record for the Texas power grid. As KUT's Mose Buchel reported this week, throw in nuclear and about 83% of the electricity used Sunday came from non-carbon emitting sources. And some, like Doug Lewin, author of the Texas Energy and Power newsletter, hope it's a sign of things to come. Lewin believes we're, quote, rapidly moving toward, or might already be in, a world where a vast majority of the hours in a week are supplied mostly by renewables at very, very low prices. In fact, Lewis notes there were times Sunday when renewable energy was trading for free on the Texas grid due to federal tax incentives, which he believes should eventually help bring electric bills down. A record amount of energy Texans used Sunday came from renewables. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Natalie Arsenault, start us off.
Well, of course. No. Of
course.
So I think on its face, it sounds great. We're like, oh, yay, renewables, solar and wind and all the things. So I think on its face, it's good. I think when you scratch the surface, there's a lot of ugly underneath there. Part of the problem is that we've kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul. So we've moved the issue of, the manufacturing and the drilling and all the things that happen supposedly to create energy in the United States. And we've said, okay, we're going to do green. But then we've moved the creation of those green elements to countries that could care less about the environment and humans in general, because you have a good chunk of solar panels that are created in China. And we know they don't have a very good human record, and they definitely don't have a great environmental record. I mean, I think when COVID hit and everybody got put in, quarantine with China being kind of encapsulated in quarantine, from the Space International Station or whatever, they could see the entirety of the country at that point in time because all of the emissions and things had gone away and cleared the skies and all of that. So, I mean, I think on its face, it sounds great. And I am, definitely a fan of having all the options. So, again, I don't think we should put all our eggs in one basket. I think we need to develop as many options as possible. But I think when you scratch the surface underneath that, all we've done is trade one thing for another thing, and one thing that we really don't have much control over. So in the same way, when, COVID hit and all of our chips, 99.99% of the super chips that go into cars and all the things were created in Malaysia and China and all of those places, suddenly everything came to a screeching halt because of supply chain issues and just being able to get stuff. So again, great on the surface, scratch a little deeper, I think it's ugly.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Mustafa Tameez.
Good. Really good. Look, we have seen increased usage of both solar and wind and other forms of alternative energy. And it's going from proof of concept, meaning you can do it, to now being commercially viable. And I think that's what we're starting, the trend that now it's headed, that more and more we're figuring out that this is actually very commercially viable. And the fact that on a single day in Texas, which is a massive energy consumption in Texas, right, that you're seeing such a large number come from alternative sources. And Texas and Houston, really, we're the energy capital, but we're also becoming somewhat of, energy capital for alternatives, right? Like you see in West Texas, you've seen the wind farms that go up. You're seeing a lot of solar farms go up, even in nearby counties. You're seeing a lot of solar farms go up, and I think one thing that people don't realize that when you put a solar farm and even a wind farm for that extent, it is an incredible tax base for the local community. Right? Just think about that for a second. That you assess property taxes on this stuff. There's some abatements and things, but you assess a property tax on this stuff. But it doesn't take up any resources. Like it's not add people, so people don't have to go to schools. It doesn't take up any. So if we put a solar farm where you take a piece of land, you put a lot of solar panels in there, it's actually very good for the community. It's very good for the environment. So I'm all for this. I do agree that it shouldn't be one or the other. That you just can't walk away from traditional sources of energy. But we also should celebrate when we have victories like this, because this is a win. This is a real win, not just for the alternative energy company. This is a win for everybody because we're going to need more and more energy as we go forward. And, these supercomputers and others, all of them take up energy, right? So having more options, having more robust is a good thing for everybody.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. Lisa Falkenberg.
It's good, Craig, but you're not supposed to be talking about this. Texans are not supposed to know that we are leading the nation in renewables. Actually, I was trying to remember that there was this piece, a Russell Gold piece in Texas Monthly, and the headline was, "We're number one in renewable energy and non-renewable energy." So we got the energies going on in Texas. No, it's ridiculous that our state politicians, since Rick Perry, who was proud of wind at one point, but they don't talk about it anymore, and they act like this is something we shouldn't be proud of, when in fact it saves not only the planet, it saves Texans money on our bills, which can be astronomical in the summer. So it's cheating, I guess, Natalie, but I did use my phone to Google.
Okay.
It looks like there are quite a few solar panel companies in the U.S. One in San Antonio, even Mississippi, Minnesota.
Oh, there are some.
California,
that is true.
California. So
That
I guess
is
we
true.
should be cognizant, obviously, of where we're buying from.
They are, but in about 2008, because I used my phone to tell, we all cheated. Yay, cheating! You can't get ahead, kids, by cheating.
Craig, I didn't cheat.
You came prepared. That's why. No, but in the 2008 time period, the photovoltaics manufacturing moved from Europe, Japan, and the United States and began outsourcing the predominant amount of that to China, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and Taiwan.
Well, but this is a recent list, and there are still quite a few here. So I think that overall, and there needs to be more, I agree. But overall, this is a really good thing, and it shows. Texas is straddling the line. We are doing what everyone thinks we should be, what many people on the right think that we should be doing, and that is transitioning. No abrupt jolt to just cut off the use of fossil fuels or natural gas. We're doing it all at the same time.
Yeah. And Rick Perry liked the wind because he just liked the way it blew through his hair. He liked that. He liked the whole hair
Having
thing.
your good hair. No, he didn't like his hair to be disturbed. He liked it all to be.
He had that. Yeah. Look, I never agreed with the politics, but he had good hair. We can all.
He did have
I'm
good
not
hair.
ashamed to admit it.
He did have good hair. It was wispy.
Panel, after backlash from some statewide pro-life organizations, the University of Houston this week canceled the opening ceremony for a temporary 18-foot statue installed on campus. As Houston Public Media's Sarah Grunow reports, the university's placed security at the art installation where Texas Right to Life held a protest Wednesday. Another group, Texas Values, says UH is making a, quote, demonic abortion-obsessed effort and promoting, quote, cult-like devil worshiping. The statue in question is called Witness and is part of artist Shazia Sikandar's exhibit called Hava, to breathe air life. The artist says the country's focus on reproductive rights after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade is at the forefront of the statue's imagery, which includes a headdress of a female figure which loops around in what appear to be rope-like horns. I guess that's what some see as the demonic parts, maybe? UH cancels a ceremony amid characterizations that it's promoting satanic art. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Mustafa.
Ugly. Look, I mean, art always pushes the envelope, makes us think. And my challenge over the years has been that whenever something like this happens, I look at the art piece and I go, that's pretty ugly. This in case actually is a very nice statue, because when I read we were going to talk about this, I wanted to take a look at the art itself because I hadn't seen it, and every single time this has happened on some other way in some other places where some art piece offended people and I get to talk about it. I look at the art piece going like, I don't know. I mean, somebody must like it. That's why it's there. But this is actually a bronze statue. It's a beautiful statue. She has done this work apparently around the world. She's known for this kind of art. And so, like you, I don't see it. I mean, they're braids. They're not horns. I think someone's trying to make a political point about this, and so they will go to do it at the expense of a person's art. So I would say if you're in and around the U of H campus, drive by, take a look at it. Take a look at the pictures of this. I think it's a lovely piece, and I think it says something, which is what art is supposed to say. And the fact that it's causing us to talk about it with each other, that makes it a real strong piece, right? The fact that we can talk about it makes it a strong piece. I don't agree with the criticism of it, but I think if it's going to allow us to talk about a very controversial issue again and again and again, so be it. I am pro-choice. I think that this is a great-looking statue. I'm not sure if that's what she was going after, right, to make a point about this. But if it forces all of us to have a conversation one more time about the issue, sure, I'm in. I'll talk about it.
Lisa.
I mean, the statue itself is good. That's a good thing. The cancellation is bad. I think when I looked at this, it was trying to center the woman in this and the woman's mind, her soul, the woman. Remember her, the one with this, life growing inside her. I think that we need a reminder of her because in this state right now, we have an abortion ban that does not consider the life of the woman, where women in emergency situations are unable to get the health care that they need that's recommended by their doctor because the doctor is afraid of going to prison for trying to save her life. I respect the pro-life viewpoint, and I respect pro-choice viewpoint. My own position is a bit nuanced, but I think one thing we should all be able to agree on is that life includes the life of the mother. The reason why this is bad is that they canceled it, and maybe there's some issues I'm not sure of that were involved there. But to me, that's just another example of our college campuses not being able to take some kind of disagreement or offend people. If we're not going to stretch our understanding of the world and people who think differently from us on a college campus, I don't know where we're supposed to do that. So we need debates like this, and we need them on University of Houston campus.
The official explanation given, by the way, was that the artist was unavailable. Now, whether the artist was previously available, then suddenly not available as a result of some of the protests surrounding it, I don't know.
I see.
That's what the statement was. Natalie.
So I think that it is, art's subjective. So characterizing art as bad or ugly would just not be good. Whether you agree with what the artist is trying to express or not, that is the point of art. It is supposed to get conversation started. It is open to interpretation. It is subjective, similarly to how much salt you like in your food. So, I think it to Mustafa's point, it did what it was supposed to do, which is create conversation, and that's what art is supposed to be trying to accomplish. And I agree with Lisa with, I find it sad that U of H canceled, for whatever reasons, including the official response. But college campus is supposed to be a sacred place where all the disagreements can happen. Like, you may not be able to talk about, sex, drugs, rock and roll in your workplace, but in college campuses, you should be able to do that stuff. And if you can't explore it there and test the boundaries and limitations of your own viewpoints and perspectives, then really, where can you? Because many of us don't have friends that see outside of our viewpoint. So the ability to exercise that doesn't really exist. So I do think it is sad that they canceled. And it's the fact that there is even a need for a statue is also kind of sad in and of itself too, for what the artist was trying to express. And my viewpoint on life is somewhat nuanced. But regardless of where we stand, to Lisa's point, the mother's life is a life, and we're in a state that currently is not considering that. I go back to my libertarian grounding, which is, why do I even know? Why do I know what's happening between you and your doctor? I don't know if you have a pacemaker in, right? Like, I have no idea. So why would I know anything else that's a medical procedure between you and your doctor, whether I agree with your medical procedure or not? Again, I think the artwork did what it was supposed to do. So kudos, and that's good. And everything else is really ugly.
And I will say this, that regardless of which side of the coin you're in, pro-life, pro-choice, but the direction we're heading, where it puts the life of the mother in jeopardy, more and more and more, that just defies logic. Because at this point, you're no longer advocating for life, right? You're advocating for an issue, and you've got very far in your advocacy. Take the win. Right? And stop and not keep going and going and going. And that's what it feels like now that's happening in our discourse. And I think it's just a function of any bureaucracy. There's a bureaucracy that's built around pro-choice, pro-life, that just keeps going on about the advocacy without having any bounds. And I think that we all should be cautious about that. Yeah,
and I would add, and don't get me wrong, I certainly get the arguments on both sides. And I just wish people would play out the decisions to the end, right? To the very furthest end. Like, people always say, "Oh, Natalie, you're so extremist in where you think this could be going." And I'm like, yeah, but it starts here, but it goes further. So yeah, they don't care about the mother's life right now, when a trained, highly skilled medical professional has said, if this doesn't happen, then this person will likely lose their life. That decision extends far beyond this one medical procedure. It could extend to whether you get a heart transplant or not. And your doctor might say, yeah, you should get a heart transplant, because if not, you're not going to live past 6 months. And then here comes the government saying, no, we don't think you should have that heart transplant. We don't really think that's right. We want to protect hearts, and your heart isn't one that we need to protect, right? So, you really have to play it out on both ends of the spectrum, all the way to the end of the worst possibility. And I don't think we're doing that here.
Panel, Houston is believed to be home to the oldest living American. Her name is Elizabeth Francis. She was born in Louisiana in 1909. She is now 114. As Houston Public Media's Adam Zuvanich reported Monday, an international organization called LongeviQuest tracks this stuff, and it and the Gerontology Research Group confirm Francis is also the fifth oldest person on the planet. The oldest is 116-year-old Maria Brañas Marrero of Spain. Francis lives with her 94-year-old daughter and is cared for by her 68-year-old granddaughter. Houston is now home to a woman believed to be the oldest living American. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Lisa.
This is good, and it's so beautiful. You guys should see this woman. She is beautiful. She's got a little crown. I'm looking at the picture on the website. She's got this beautiful happy birthday crown. And I mean, this is obviously a story of family supporting each other through the generations, which unfortunately in our lives these days, we don't do as much as we should. But I also love what she said was her secret to living a long life: expressing yourself freely. Natalie doesn't have any problem with that. This is her quote. Her quote: If the good Lord gave it to you, use it. Speak your mind. Don't hold your tongue. Nobody at this table has a problem with that. I think she should also get points because she's a Black woman who lives in the South, and we know there are issues that come with that, childbearing and racial trauma and all those kinds of things. This is beautiful, and I'm glad we get to talk about it today.
Natalie.
I agree. I think it's good all around, and all of us at this table, if this is the secret to longevity, then we have very long lives ahead of us. But I think it's so super cute that, like, they said her daughter was 94. I'm like, oh my God, that's so great. And then the granddaughter is 68. I'm like, 3 generations right there, taking care of each other, continuing to pass wisdom around, I think is absolutely fantastic. What I did not see, interestingly enough, I'm like, where is anybody's husband? I'm like, could the secret really be? No, I'm just kidding. I love my husband. He's great. I love my husband. He's great. And I'm just saying, I didn't see any men prevalent in this. I'm just saying. Mustafa might have something to say about it.
I do. May I? Right?
No, you may not.
Man?
I'm just kidding. I love the men. It's great. My husband's awesome.
Well, so let me say this. As a father of 3 boys, and we've been very blessed. We're very blessed. My mom lived with us, and my mother-in-law lives next door. And so my boys were the beneficiaries, and I was a beneficiary of having them around for a long time with us. And there is this multi-generational households have a richness about them, and I can speak that just from my own experience, that have a richness about it that I wish everybody would get to experience, right? There is the stories that get told about our families and their lived experience that gets shared. It happens in increments, doesn't happen all at once, right? And it happens in soft, gentle things more than the lectures that we get. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. She never understood what I did for a living, and I remember that.
None of us do, Mustafa. None of us do.
None of us. Somebody saw me on television or something and called my mother and said, "Hey, I saw him. He seems to be doing well." And my mother went like, "I don't know what he does, but if he was a doctor." So the reason why I bring that up is that. At the time when she said it, I cringed, but it's one of my cherished memories of my mother, right? Because it was such an authentic thing. And so now I'm trying to get any one of my 3 kids to become a doctor, because when I get old, I want one of my kids to be one, and they're doing the exact same thing I did. So life is a full circle. I am very, very excited that the oldest American lives here in Houston, and paints such a wonderful example for all of us. So it's a neat way to talk about this last story.
Mustafa Tameez is a media and public affairs consultant and managing director of Outreach Strategists. Lisa Falkenberg is editor of opinion for the Houston Chronicle. Natalie Arsenault is president of Arsenault International Consulting. Mustafa, Lisa, Natalie, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.